All right, welcome to our first of two feature matches for week 5. So here we have Sawyer, who I'm going to be looking at it from his point of view, and then he's going to be facing Jeremy, who we've seen a couple times in the feature matches in previous weeks. And we got Coleman, who's going to look at it from his point of view. So Sawyer is he's doing very well. He just came off a win just a few moments ago to get up to his 16th win. So he's up, tied for first in wins right now. Haven't seen his deck in the feature match yet, so looking forward to that. Looks like he's playing a broker's deck based on the starting hand. What do we see on Jeremy's side?
He's playing a Maestro's deck.
Okay,
Got a Xander's Lounge, small Maestro's Charm, Shakedown Heavy, Glamorous Outlaw, Exhibition Magician, and a Plasma Jockey.
yeah. So he was saying before the match he was playing like a 4, almost 5 color build before. He was saying he's got a more focused build now, base 2 colors with a few gold cards. So sounds like he's probably black red with some blue cards in there. So Sawyer did mulligan a 5 land hand, and kept a pretty good 6 card hand here. He'll have a Rafine's Informant to start off on turn 2. He has Hold for Ransom and Bouncer's Beatdown as interaction, and then once he gets his land drops, he has a Rock's Pummeler up at the top of his curve, and a God's Willing that he just drew this turn. So he does need a couple more lands, obviously, but looks like he's got things to do in the meantime. So he'll play out his Rafine's Informant here on turn 2. See what he decides to do with the Connive. He's drawn, looks like another Rafine's Informant. He's just going to dump his 6-drop here. Looks like, yeah. So he's just going to follow up with another Rafine's Informant. And here comes the Shakedown Heavy, which Hold for Ransom is likely to be placed on that at some point, whether this turn or next turn. He also has the option of playing a backup agent that he just drew, and then casting Bouncer's Beatdown for 1 mana, making the Rafine's Informant a 4 power, which I think he's gonna choose to do that here. Play 2 cards, affect the board, and get the opponent's creature off the board. So very, very well played here, and he'll get to attack for 4. What's Jeremy's next couple turns looking like?
Well, this guy, he's got a Maestro's Theater and a Girder's Goon that he has drawn since the beginning.
So
Looks
he's
like he's going to lead out with the Exhibition Magician.
okay. He will. He's probably going to fire off that Maestro's Charm at some point on this 4/3, uh, unless he can find what he needs to block it. So see what he decides, whether he needs the treasure or whether he's. So he needs the treasure here. He wants to be able to cast. You said he has a 5 and 6 drop in hand, so it's important for him to cast those. So Sawyer's drawn an island now. Doesn't have any blue cards in hand, but will be good for when he does. We'll attack here. I assume the Magician's going to trade off. Not an exciting follow up for Sawyer, just a Rafine's Informant, but maybe it'll draw him into something else interesting to do this turn. So, so he's drawn an Illuminator Virtuoso, which he will be playing. He's deciding if he's going to discard a God's Willing or a Hold for Ransom, or maybe he'll unlikely to discard the Virtuoso here. He's looking at Hold for Ransom as the card, yeah. So Illuminator Virtuoso comes down. So God's Willing is a pretty good combo with the Virtuoso. It does trigger the Connive, saves it from a removal, and makes it bigger, and scries. So nice little card that we see from the other sets here, from the reward packs that we've baked into the league, of which Sawyer has 4 impressively after his 16 wins. So Jeremy's probably thinking about what to cast this turn.
Yeah.
Girder Goons, you said,
Yeah.
was an option.
Yeah, Gerdergan's Cricket. He's drawn a Cricket Custodian for the turn.
Okay.
Uh,
No lands to speak of, though.
No lands, so it
Mm,
looks like he's hard casting with his
yeah.
treasure, the
Yeah,
goons.
hard casting the Girder Goons is rough because it means he's that much further away from casting his Glamorous Outlaw, which can scry him to find what he needs. But the Girder Goons is mostly a stop sign here, for except for the Rafine's Informant.
Yeah, before the match, Jeremy in our team chat was talking about how impressed he's been with Glamorous Outlaw. He has 3 of them in his deck. Um, he thinks that the scry is very important to his strategy, similar to how Imperial Oath was in Kamigawa. It
Yeah,
just comes in pretty clutch once you're up to 6 mana.
yeah. This late in the league, and I mean 5 weeks in when the decks are pretty high powered. Um, it's a pretty high bar for what you're going to pay 6 mana for, or what 6 drops you're going to put in your deck, and the fact that a common has, you know, is still that good, and he still actively wants 3 of them, just shows that it's really a well made card all around. Usually by this point, your 6 drops are probably uncommons or rares if you are running 6 drops. So, but that one does meet the bar. So he's going to attack here. He's going to God's Willing his Virtuoso. It's not going to kill the Girdergoons unless he discards the Chaldea Strongarm that he just drew, because his other card in hand is a land. So he got himself in a little strange of a situation here, casting the God's Willing just with a land in hand. So the Luminary Virtuoso won't be a 2/2 unless he discards a spell here. He will get to Scry, and a 2/2 Virtuoso is, very threatening, much more threatening than a 1/1. So he's just gonna, looks like he is just gonna discard this land. So it will not. So this will not kill the Girder Goons. It'll give him a Scry. He sees a 6 drop that he's putting on the bottom, and I, I I do think he could have probably attacked with his 4/3 there. It'd be just as good, getting some damage. Like, opponent is at 13, and Jeremy is still missing his land, so
Just
you know.
drew a Maestro's Theater, so tap land, which is fine. He's going to lead with the Plasma Jockey.
Okay, so he's just gonna hardcast the Plasma Jockey, which can trade with these informants here. So he's doing a good job of defending himself while Sawyer has fewer cards in hand than him. So I think for Jeremy, it's just a matter of being able to cast all of his spells. Sawyer's drawn a 5th land here, so he can choose to blitz or just regular cast his strong arm here. Putting 2 counters on these creatures, they still don't. They still won't get past any of these creatures that favorably. I suppose making a 6/5 informant would make a trade with both of the creatures, but the strong arm will be impactful. So let's see what he decides here. Yeah, so even if he puts the 2 counters on the Virtuoso, it still trades with the Girder Goons. He's just thinking this over. This is a big decision. These 2 counters, will make a difference on this board. Let's see what he decides to do. So in hand for Jeremy, we still have the Glamorous Outlaw, and you said Maestro's Charm, right?
Maestro's Charm and a Crooked Custodian.
The Crooked Custodian. Crooked Custodian, I don't think is gonna have much of a place here, just because it comes in tapped. It's a little awkward here. So he's decided to just make the biggest creature on board, one that opponent has to trade both creatures for. This is weak to a removal spell, which we do know that Jeremy is holding one. So if he wants to get rid of this 6/5, he can just do that right now while Sawyer's tapped out. And then Sawyer's attacks aren't looking spectacular. So here comes a Body Dropper. Yeah, so Body Dropper indicates, which is what I was pretty sure of, is that he's very heavy in black-red and just playing blue for some of the gold cards that Maestro's offers.
Yeah, he's trying to decide if he wants to use the Maestro's Charm now while he's tapped out, and it looks like he is.
Yeah, I think like these white green decks, and I know from currently playing one in League, is that we are we're running all the combat tricks, all these pump spells. So if the opponent is tapped out and you want to kill their creature with a damage based removal, it's correct to do it there. So this entourage may be able to apply pressure depending on what Sawyer draws in the ensuing turns. So here comes a Crooked Custodian. Unfortunately, it's a 3/2 that enters battlefield tapped. Uh, Jerry would have much rather cast a Glamorous Outlaw, but did not find the land to do so.
And he's drawn a Corrupt Court Official for the turn, but he's probably going to hold that, I'm thinking, until he has a card in hand to get with it.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's just
unless Sawyer plays a draw spell, it's unlikely he's going to have cards in hand to pass the turn. I guess maybe Combat Trick or something. But he's not going to nab something really insane. That is unless Sawyer does draw a 6-drop, which he's already sent 2 of them to the bottom this game. One from his starting hand when he mulliganed, and one from his scry. So don't know how many more 6-drops he has left, but so it looks like Sawyer is holding the Civic Gardener here. Maybe he's trying to have an explosive turn with the Elegant Entourage. Looks like that will be punished here if Jeremy does end up playing the Corrupt Court Official,
since he's
but
drawn
he
a line,
found his
he's going to
land,
go with that.
so the Outlaw's coming down. Yeah, so keeping this Gardener in hand plays around potential board wipes, of which there's more than one. I think they're running around just in this set, and then with all the other sets open, there's board wipes that that showed up as well in the reward packs. And also, he does have that Elegant Entourage, so he could end up potentially having an explosive turn if he can trigger the Alliance multiple times. And the
He's
tutus just
feeling a little more
yeah.
bold to attack now that he has scried an involuntary employment to the top. And
Ooh,
underneath
okay.
that is another Glamorous Outlaw. So he's chaining together Glamorous Outlaws to kind
Okay,
of get through
so
his
yeah,
land.
he's gonna get to involuntary and sack something that he sees as problematic. Could be the Elegant Entourage. Maybe he's not afraid of that too much right now, so they could just save it for when something a lot more threatening comes down. Sawyer's draw is a Celestial Regulator here, which seems to be a splash in his green-white deck. So that's one of the blue cards that he's splashing for. And this one is a 2/3 flyer, and his opponent's at 8. So that might prompt the use of the involuntary employment and sack, or just the Maestro's charm that he. Oh no, he did cast the Maestro's charm already. So yeah, this might prompt the involuntary employment to sack it. So he's given his Virtuoso +1/+1 and trample here, and he's considering potentially playing the Civic Gardener to give it another point of power here, making it quite a threatening attack. I think he's looking through the power toughness of opponent's creatures and figuring out if he can attack and with how many creatures he wants to. So we'll see what he puts the +1/+1 on here. So like I said, he was with the Elegant Entourage. He was holding the Gardener to try and do a turn where he could trigger Alliance more than once, because that 2/2 wasn't really doing anything on the board currently. So he decided to hold it to get an extra trigger. Let's see what he decides here. Making his Caldea Strongarm a 3/4 gives it a very good attack. Whereas right now it doesn't really have a good attack. He's just gonna put it on the Virtuoso, presenting a lot of damage here. So Sawyer can trade with 2 of the creatures, and then he can chump block the 4/4. But none of this is great for him. So he can take.
Really kind of put a damper in his. It's looking like the body dropper's not going to be able to stick around.
Yeah, and he can't block this Virtuoso, so he just kind of has to trade, and then throw the body dropper in front of the 4/4 here and go to 2. And he'll untap with only a Girder Goons as an untapped creature. So the Celestial Regulator locking down the biggest creature paired with another creature to trigger the Alliance really paid off here. Holding that Gardener really paid dividends. Jeremy's just thinking if he has better blocks, but these are the blocks that I think I envisioned here. Yeah, so he knows what's on top, and I think he knows it doesn't get him out of this. So looks like we're going to game two. Yeah, that scry on top. He was not expecting basically a removal spell and a pump spell, which basically the Celestial Regulator acted as a removal spell, and then two creatures coming in acted as a big pump spell. So looking at Sawyer's deck, he has a bit more blue than I maybe thought at first. He is looking like he's siding out some of his blue cards here, maybe to just go for a more focused green-white deck. So has a Windshield Agent, Echo Inspector, out of the way, the bounce spell that draws a card. And, okay, it looks like he is thinking of bringing some red cards, potentially. Let's see what he decides here. We do have untimed sideboarding, so he does have time to do this as long as he has the needed lands in his sideboard due to Arena's deck building formatting. Unlike regular limited games where you can add extra basics that are not in your draft or sealed pool, you do have to, if you want mountains, you do have to have them in your pool. But looks like he does have some mountains.
Jeremy has brought in more removal. The dead weight, immolation, whack, looking to make some cuts. He's cut a dig the body, and an exhibition magician looking to make one more cut.
Okay. Yeah, so cards that Sawyer's thinking about bringing in here for the red splash, we got 2 copies of Rakish Revelers, that's the fixer at common, 2 copies of Cabaret Charm, which really works well if he's going wide, which he did show that he can do. There's a Dwarven Hammer from Kaldheim, that's an equipment that gives +3/+0 and trample. And if you pay 5 mana total, it comes in with a 2/1 attached to it.
So the final cut over here on Jeremy's side was the involuntary employment, possibly after being burned by it in that last game.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Sawyer didn't have that many, great targets. Most of his creatures were small. He more went wide, and I mean, the double striker did a good share of the work, but he wasn't just slamming these big, gigantic 5 drops and 6 drops that had to be answered. That involuntary employment can really do well against. But like I said, Sawyer did bottom 2 of his 6 drops. The only other 6 drop in his deck is the Vivian Planeswalker that I'm looking at now. So Sawyer caught that he still had a Celestial Regulator in his deck, the white-blue card, which he would have been mostly unable to cast. So it looks like he's decided against the Dwarven Hammer, is just going with 2 Cabaret Charm, 2 Rakish Reveler, perhaps. He has a couple other red cards he could have sided in, like the Fleetfoot Downcer, that 4/4 Trample Haste lifelink. I think he just wanted to go a bit more wide here. So the Revelers give 2 bodies, and the Cabaret Charm can pump the team or make more bodies. So he's immediately looking at a hand of no cards that he can cast. 3 plains, 2 mountains, and then a green card and a 3-color card. This second hand looks a bit better.
Jeremy has begrudgingly kept his hand. I think he's a little worried. He's got an island and a Maestro's Theater, but those are his only 2 lands, but he does have both red and black cards, so he's going to grab a mountain. Follow that up, he has a Body Dropper, Shakedown Heavy again, River Tears Requisitioner,
Okay.
a Pirate Sledge, Arsonist, and a Psychic Pickpocket.
Yeah, so I think he's going to probably try and lean heavy on the Requisitioner to get him that treasure so he can smooth out his mana situation here. So Sawyer, as we can see, has 2 more tap lands in hand. He has a For the Family. He has 2 of those red cards he brought in, Cabaret Charm and the Rakish Revelers, and he has a Thopter Arrest, which is like a banishing-like type of effect, which was from Kaladesh Remastered. Yeah, so slow start here for Sawyer. Another tap land. He has another tap, yet another tap land next turn. He did draw Forest.
Still no black mana over here.
So
So
Jeremy's
like along
just
the tree drop the arsonist.
okay. So Jeremy's still doing things. He'll be able to probably, as soon as he draws a black Source, looks like he'll be able to continue on here. Sawyer looks like he's just going to play another tap land. So he was mousing over the Thop Duress, which is a 3-mana enchantment that can exile a creature or an artifact. Decided just to play the tap land. He's going to use his Rakish Revelers here to fix for red. But, very much behind here. So, I mean, despite the lack of black, Jeremy has things to do, and he's putting on the pressure here. So, Plasma Jockey is really putting on the pressure because it means that a single creature, which Sawyer doesn't have right now. I mean, he has the Cabaret Charm, which can make 2 creatures, but a single creature won't be able to defend here. So, looks like he's just going to pass. He's going to let Jeremy attack, and then he's going to cast his Cabaret Charm, making 2 1/1s that can get in the way of the 2 3/1s. Pretty unexpected since he was playing Brokers last game, so this is really not something Jeremy could have seen coming. Even if he did, don't know what he could have done about it anyway. Okay, looks like he's actually going to get in the way of the Arsonist and use his For the Family. He doesn't want to give Jeremy that treasure. He sees he doesn't have black mana. He doesn't want to enable the black mana, but Jeremy did draw Maestro's Theater, which will give him black for next turn. So Jeremy has in hand, it's all black cards, right?
He has a Psychic Pickpocket, a Body Dropper, and a Shakedown Heavy.
Okay, so a black card, a blue card, and then a black-red card.
Looks like, so Sawyer's starting to stabilize.
Yeah, Sawyer,
drew him out.
Yeah, so the Shakedown Heavy is going to come. That's almost for sure going to be exiled with a Thopter Arrest, which I believe may have been one of the cards in his most recent reward pack. He had just finished playing a match before we started this one, and he had opened a pack of Kaladesh as a reward for getting his unbelievable 16th win. All right, so Rafine's Informant comes down. So we'll see how he decides to proceed. He could let the Shakedown Heavy attack, but I think he's just going to opt to take it off the board here. Safe bet. Jeremy's not in the colors to be removing enchantments, so looks like a pretty safe way to just get this away more or less permanently. So now
we drew a Mountain West last turn. We didn't play it, and then for this term we have a Light 'em Up.
Yeah, so he most likely didn't. Well, he was playing his Maestro's Theater last turn, right? That's why he didn't play the Mountain. But something you might want to discard for his Psychic Pickpocket when that comes down. So he's weighing his options here. We said he has Body Dropper, he has a Mountain, he has a Psychic Pickpocket. Psychic Pickpocket certainly uses the most of his mana here and gives him a little connive here. So he'll be bouncing a token, presumably. Yeah, so he gets rid of that Mountain. Yeah, so Sawyer is obviously lower on life than he'd like to be, but right now neither side has a distinct way to put pressure on the opponent. Sawyer's almost for sure going to play his Strong Arm this turn, see what he decides to do with the counters. This is always a very interesting card, I find. I myself have multiple copies in my deck, and I'm always... whenever it's time to cast one, I always have to think, where's the best place with the counters, unless it's like really obvious, but in a lot of cases, it does require a lot of thinking. it's a it's a surprisingly difficult card to really play optimally. So notably, Sawyer also has this. I haven't mentioned it, but it's been in play since early in the game. This Bredegard Stronghold, this land that can, if I recall, it puts a +1 counter on up to 2 creatures, and they gain vigilance and lifelink for the turn. I believe. So it looks like he's going to be doing that. It's only as a sorcery. So he's going to be putting one on his Civil Servant, which can't attack yet, but he does get to attack in for 6 and gain 6 here. Pretty big swing. Now this Revelers is bigger than the Pickpocket. So nice little play there. So now he's back up to 15, and he
Yeah,
has the
drawn
beast
a
creature.
Retained Tower. Last turn we drew one of our historic cards, Thermo Alchemist.
Thermo Alchemist, yes. What was his draw for the turn this one? This time?
Retained Tower.
Okay, so
By
the Tri-land that cycles, that for him makes blue and black. Alright, so deciding what to do. I guess he could cast his Body Dropper and his Thermo Alchemist. They don't tangle really favorably with this 6/4, nor even with this Civil Servant that can be a 4/4 and might even end up being bigger with the Strong Arm coming down. So a bit of a tough spot here for Jeremy. That 6 lifelink was really, really, really big for Sawyer. So Sawyer's sideboarding has really, really come in big here. That Cabaret charm was huge. Killed, was able to kill off 2 creatures essentially with it,
Nice.
and then this Rakish Reveler is coming in, making an extra body. Um, the cards he cited out were like Celestial Regulator, a few flying creatures, and a couple copies of Out of the Way, which is the bounce spell that draws a card and costs less if targeting green creatures, of which Jeremy does not have. So pretty shrewd sideboarding here, really gaining a big advantage from those cards, which Jeremy had could not see coming. So Body Droppers come down. And as I suspected, we have the Thermo Alchemist. That's the one that you can tap it to deal a damage to the opponent. And if you cast an instant or sorcery, you can untap it to deal even more damage. Unfortunately, pretty bad power toughness for this current board. An O3 is just not going to be impactful unless Jeremy's planning on drawing many spells in a row. The Thermo Alchemist is likely to be chump blocking at some point in the next couple turns. If Sawyer keeps the pressure on, which with this strong arm will allow him to do that. So here's deciding to blitz the strong arm to get the attack in now, and to basically cycle it for a card. Dumping the counters on this Civil Servant, which is now going to be huge. Yeah, so the Civil Servant now, he could put both of his creatures in front of the Civil Servant and then sack the Thermo Alchemist to trade off with the Civil Servant, but the 6/4 Revelers will still be on board. That might be his best move here. Block the 6/4 with his Alchemist, and then double block the Civil Servant and sack the Thermo Alchemist. Yeah, so he sees that is his best line here. He absolutely has to get this Civil Servant off the board. The lifelink is just going to be way too much to deal with for him. So a 6/4, if he gets a removal, he gets a removal, or finds something to block it, he can block it. But the lifelink is something he has to address immediately. So he's going to lose his whole board here, basically, to trade with this one card. But it must be done. So Sawyer's drawn a tap land here with his sacrifice, the Blitz sacrifice trigger. So what's Jeremy
We
thinking
have
about this
drawn
turn?
a strangle for the turn.
Okay, so
We're in 2-for-1 ourselves here to get rid of the 6/4.
he's gonna play 2 removals. Okay. Yeah. Well, it was gonna it was gonna kill him in two turns. So on the flip side, Sawyer's got very little to do. Has drawn another land. He's going to sacrifice his Botanical Plaza to see if he can draw something else, and it's another land. So if Jeremy can find some action here, Sawyer's holding only lands, um, so he can draw out of this. I mean, it's basically almost an even game right now. So he's going to
We drew a
cycle.
wax to the turn, so we're cycling away, and then the cycle brought in a Sunstreak Phoenix.
Okay, so that might swing the game in his favor. That's a flying mythic from I believe Midnight Hunt, which could come back from the graveyard when day turned to night, or the other way around, I believe. So that's going to be one that's going to be difficult to deal with. Uh, so Sawyer has drawn a courier's briefcase and a jewel thief here. So here's this 4/2 flying, which is going to be a problem. All right, so Sawyer's drawn a God's Willing, which isn't too helpful right now. The jewel thief is going to come down. So try and race with this Phoenix.
Imagine that's a prime target for whack. You're on the next turn.
Yeah. So notably, Sawyer does have a God's Willing. So if he wants to keep his jewel thief alive, which it's his only threat, so stands to reason that he might want to keep it alive, he will be able to prevent it from dying if Jeremy targets it with a removal here. So Jeremy deciding whether to attack with his Phoenix or not. If he figures he's just going to remove the Jewel Thief, then he'll want to attack. If he doesn't want to remove the Jewel Thief and would prefer to just block it, then he will leave it back. Let's see what he decides. So what's the other card he's holding now?
He drew an Exhibition Magician for the turn, which he's
Okay,
going to
so
play. Decided against attacking.
yeah, so this Phoenix, it blocks pretty well. It blocks the Jewel Thief and it threatens to come back potentially. So Sawyer's drawn one of the better cards in his deck, which is the Elspeth Resplendent. So let's see how he decides to use it here. What he's gonna do with it. That will be his play for the turn. So being able to give something flying means that he can block the Phoenix, and unless Jeremy has a removal, which we know he does have, but Sawyer has the answer with the God's Willing. Looks like this Alphabus will stick around for most likely at least one turn, if not many more. Yeah, so he's gonna put first strike on his Jewel Thief and just go ahead and attack with it. So basically, he's saying, if you want to attack my Elspeth for 4, go ahead. I'm just gonna bash in with this 4/4 for the foreseeable future. Yeah. So I think this is assuredly going to prompt the whack out of Jeremy's hand now, which will be met with a God's Willing. Did he
Jeremy's
draw?
thinking long and hard about what that last card is in Sawyer's hand. Can't decide if he wants to whack for the turn or play a Plasma Jockey, which he's just drawn.
Okay. So he did see the God's Willing last game. I don't know if that's that has to be crossing his mind. But in this case, with a first strike trampling vigilance creature, you can't be expecting to block it. So firing off the removal is kind of what he needs to do here, even if it means that there's a God's Willing on the other side. Yeah, the trample is just making it impossible for him to defend against it. So he's considering his option, but his hand might be forced here with the whack. Yeah. Yeah. So this is definitely worth God's casting the God's Willing. Yeah. So give it protection from black. He'll scry a land to the bottom, and next turn he can give it flying, I suppose. We'll see what. Attacking the planeswalker here means that I. Okay, so he's drawn. So he's he's got back-to-back planeswalkers here. He's just drawn his Vivian. So
Oh boy.
just an embarrassment of riches here. We can see why he's risen to the top of the standings. Like he has, you know, these cards really put the game out of reach when it was about even. We saw, Jeremy got ahead on board early. Sawyer came back. He stabilized. He gained some life, and then the game was essentially even. And then, Jeremy did draw his mythic, his Phoenix, but not a match for two planeswalkers here. Not really even a match for one planeswalker, unfortunately. So he's going to get him down to 2 here. And now this Jewel Thief can even block the Sunstreak Phoenix if Jeremy was even dreaming of attacking of attacking the Planeswalker.
And kind of force blocks, attack him with the tokens as well.
Yeah, so he has to block at least one of them. And he'll block both. Yeah, and with Plasma Jockey as Jeremy's last card in hand, that's not going to do the trick here. I don't know what he has in his deck that can deal with all of these issues, because there's first of all a lethal creature, and then there's just 2 planeswalkers. So, and here he's going to draw 2 cards off of it, including Gala Greeters, which he can't cast. At least he can't cast another rare this turn. So there's some small victories here. He can only he can only cast a premium uncommon this turn rather than another rare. So, we'll see what Jeremy can muster up here. What was his draw?
Witty Roast Master.
Yeah, so that's just a 3/2 that doesn't do much of anything. All right, so bring in the Plasma Jockey. Maybe he can cycle into a removal for the Jewel Thief, because it is going to die at the end of turn. So, he'll. So this is interesting. So Sawyer has the option. If Sawyer blocks here, Jeremy does get to draw the card immediately, which means he could use it on his main phase. He's actually just going to let this Elspeth die, because he doesn't want to give Jeremy the access to the card during his main phase. So basically, whatever card he draws from the Plasma Jockey has to be an instant. If he would have taken the block here, it would have given him access to an extra card during Jeremy's main phase that he could potentially cast. So he said, I'm just going to play it safe. I'm not going to give him that extra card. Elspeth did enough. I have a Vivian and a gigantic flying creature with trample. So, he didn't see the need to give Jeremy an extra draw.
That's GG. Our card that we drew was a mountain.
Yeah. So even if he did draw during his main phase, it wouldn't have done enough. But, a very, very, very good, careful play by Sawyer, just to make sure he didn't get that extra card that could get that Jewel Thief off the board. So that's going to be it for our first feature match, and we'll be back in a bit for the next one.